Dear ICJW executive members, panelists, and friends, welcome to our Bridging the Gap Part 2, our third webinar of this year. I'm Lillian Bosboom, Chair of Communications and Public Relations for the ICJW. I'm talking to you from Rio de Janeiro, just after 7 a.m. local time. Today's panelists come from all over Europe, and our moderator, Lisa, is in South Africa. They represent the voices of women leaders of the ICJW, and I'm excited to hear from them today. This is a webinar format, so the only people you will see are the panelists, but you can control how you see them. In the upper right-hand corner of your screen is a button that allows you to make those choices. If you have questions, use the Q&A button found at the bottom of your screen. Click on the button and write your questions with the panelist's name you wish to ask. We will get to as many questions as time allows. I'm so pleased to know that over 120 people registered for this webinar. If someone you know can get in, we are also streaming through our ICJW YouTube channel. Welcome again. And now I would like to introduce you to Penelope Conway, the president of ICJW.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all, and welcome to this ICJW webinar, Bridging the Gap, Part 2. My name is Penelope Conway, and I'm the president of the International Council of Jewish Women, and I'm speaking to you from London, where it is 11 o'clock in the morning, sunny, but unfortunately cold. For those of you watching who are not members of one of our affiliates, ICJW is an umbrella organisation of 38 women's groups around the world, covering most countries, from Mexico to Australia, Israel to South Africa, and Uganda to Canada. ICJW was founded in 1912 and provides a voice for Jewish women and a platform for advocacy and action on issues that concern us all. We promote a just society based on human rights and Jewish values, both of which are sorely needed at the moment. ICJW has permanent representation at the United Nations in New York, Geneva, and Vienna, and also at the Council of Europe, European Women's Lobby, World Jewish Congress, and UNESCO. Many of our affiliates are involved in advocacy for equality and an end to gender discrimination, whilst others are challenging the trafficking of women and children and all forms of anti-Semitism. Some are very involved in tackling climate change and also the inequalities that exist in education around the world. Many more participate in community service projects and social action in their local communities and have been very inventive during the pandemic, continuing their work to help those less fortunate. Part 1 of this webinar was very well received, and I'm sure that this event will be just as useful and informative. We will be introducing 3 of our younger members from Greece, Poland, and Sweden, who will talk about their involvement in their affiliates. These young women are the future of ICJW, and we must listen carefully to their ideals and aims. They are all involved with empowering women and benefit from their participation in an international organisation. They will be introduced by Lisa Schewitz from South Africa, who will also moderate your questions. Over to you, Lisa.
Thank you, Penny. Greetings to everybody. While many of you might not have heard of East London in the Eastern Cape of South Africa, I'm sure that you are familiar with Nelson Mandela, who comes from here. And I'd like to just start with a phrase or a saying that he said on his 90th birthday. What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It's what difference we have made in the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead. And so thank you to Penny, to Lillian, and to Bev, dynamic ladies. Thank you for making the difference in the lives we lead. in the lives of our panelists who now have this forum to present their stories. And thank you to our panelists for making the difference of the lives of others within your communities, and hence ensuring that the lives that you do lead are significant, and for sharing your stories. A big thank you to the ICJW for coordinating and hosting this event, and to you, Penny, for providing a real voice for women to be heard and for making the world a smaller place. Another big thank you to David, Lillian's husband, for resolving all the technical glitches and assisting the panel as well as the audience to make this happen. David, you're the thorn amongst the roses, and although you are behind your screen, without you, we could not be heard or seen. Thank you for your hard work and time. Audrey Hepburn said, "The best things in life to hold on to is each other." Ladies, for me, that is the objective of today. For in the world where we cannot touch or hold, I can say that from our personal interaction on these forums and meeting the incredible speakers we're going to hear, that we can hold on to each other's stories. We can draw inspiration, motivation, collaboration from each other, no matter how far away we are. And I'm hoping that that's what you will all take away from today. And hence, I encourage you to ask as many questions as you can and to interact with the panel. Today, we are bridging the gap in terms of diversity, destination, time zones, continents, and countries. But as you will see, the bridge is built on a solid foundation of kindness, community service, selflessness, and big hearts. And so I'd like to start today with our Swedish guest, Karoline Schneider from Malmö in Poland. Karoline is the mommy to 3 young daughters and is simultaneously studying her doctorate in digital technologies and education. Her research expands to multimodal layer technologies and their meaning in education. And Karoline, I tried to Google one of your articles, but I couldn't actually understand it. So I'm not going to elaborate further on your incredible research. But all I can say is that with your daughters and your involvement in the Jewish community, I'm not quite sure you get the time to be so diversified. Karoline initiated and co-founded JKS, a Jewish Women's Society in Malmö, and has been involved with the Jewish community there for a while. In her spare time, she's an avid runner, a participant in extreme sports, and a gardener of note. Thank you so much for being with us, and we can't wait to hear your story.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Lisa, and also Lillian and Penelope for the introductions. Yes, so my name is Karoline Schneider, and I represent the affiliate Swedish Women's Society of Malmö in Sweden, where I am the contact or spokesperson in relation to ICJW. I would like to begin by thanking the ICJW for hosting the Bridging the Gap seminar and the opportunity for all of us to network and disseminate the important work that Jewish women do around the world for Jewish women and between groups and between different stages in life. I feel really honored to be here today, and on behalf of my group, JKS, take this opportunity to, with great interest, tell you what we have been working on to promote Jewish life in our vicinity. Next slide, please. So I want to start by saying something brief about myself for you to get to know me a little bit. As I said, I live in Malmö, it's in the south of Sweden, with my family, my husband, and my 3 girls, aged 5, 9, and 12. They are visible in the picture on this slide. Since I'm currently a doctoral candidate specializing on digital technologies in education, I also have a second context that's pretty salient in my life, and it's in the north of Sweden, in Umeå, where I have my workplace at the university. You can also see the picture with the snow in it. That's taken from one of our skiing trips, and when we were actually visiting one of my Sami friends at the countryside. There is always a lot of snow in Umeå, and during the winter it's often also super cold. I love my family and I really enjoy family time, and the last picture you can see was taken during the summer, last summer, during one of our numerous trips to the ocean with my sister and her family. So in this presentation, I will highlight some of the work that I and my group, Jewish Women's Society of Malmö, Judiska Kvinnosällskapet in Swedish, have been working on since we were formed. Next slide, please. So the Jewish Women's Society was created in the fall of 2016. It was basically based on the desire of 9 young women to maintain the links and togetherness that had been created during the time several of our children went to the Jewish kindergarten in Malmö, Chinuch, and thus to let us all preserve the Jewish identity and community feeling that we experienced during that time. All of us also had the wish to extend to a larger context, larger than the group's intentions, for instance, to try to work for the empowerment of Swedish women in our group and outward, as well as reaching out to strengthen Jewish purposes in our vicinity. Anyways, we were keen on building on the Jewish identity and belonging, and this is still a strong driving force in our work, in our purpose. So we started off with what we had, basically ourselves, our experiences, ideas, and passions for contextualizing and contributing, and with the goal to organize events that favors women's empowerment, further developing knowledge of themes related to Judaism and Israel, and also benefiting the family's Jewish social lives. Since we started in 2016, we have created a small but significant portfolio of charity events. And despite the fact that we are all hardworking parents with small children, and sometimes we experience difficulties in making ends meet, I think this is also our strength as well, a close relationship to the purposes we want to support, and an internal passion that gives us energy, the will to continue, and a feeling of unity. So shortly after we were established in 2017, we became a non-profit organization, and we have since then been networking on a national and an international scale and continued our work with charity. So the idea of becoming an ICJW affiliate was raised already when we started in 2016. We were voted in at the executive meeting in November 2019. And the thought of joining ICJW came from our belief that we could contribute to the purpose of ICJW with our close perspective on Judaism, with our experiences in building on and strengthening the Jewish identity and community in various ways in our near vicinity. We were also convinced that the ICJW could give us the same feeling we created at home regarding further strengthening the Jewish identity, but also on an international basis, and also provide the opportunities to network and learn from other contexts and organizations. So by being part of a bigger context, we hope to be inspired and inspire by reaching out with our engaging spirit to other settings than just the group or the local community. So as mentioned before, we are really busy, hardworking mothers with small children. And therefore we have managed to have one event and one sponsorship each year up till now, although the corona pandemic currently have set things a little bit out of play. this year and previous year. Next slide, please. So some of our events so far has included networking with other women's groups in our regions. And for instance, with the closeness to Denmark and Copenhagen, we have tied bonds and made exchanges with the purpose of networking and exchanging ideas, building on the identities of us as being young Jewish mothers, with a Vitso group in Copenhagen already when we started 2017. Other events included a lecture about sex in the fall of 2017. We also organized a lecture about the contemporary and highly important subject stress in January 2019. The funds that we raised during our events were used to support the HaKoa football team with clothes, and you can see the picture on the right bottom corner of this slide. It's my girls having the clothes on. We made donations to a Vitso Malmö group party and helped with furnishing Chinuch, the Jewish kindergarten in Malmö's playground. We also supported the lunch for the elderly in May 2019. Next slide, please. So now you will get to watch a small recording of the lunch for the seniors, accompanied by klezmer music played by Philip Runesson and Johan Olsson. Okay, so thank you all for listening to my story, and if you want to contact me, you can use my email address.
Thank you so much, Karolina. And I read a quote that says, "Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail." And I think that's what you and the other mommies in Sweden or in Malmö are doing, in that you are, you working from the bottom up, creating new paths, new directions, making a difference, collaborating where you can. And it's wonderful to see, and thank you so much for sharing with us. And I look forward to questions that the wider audience might have for you later. So thank you. I'd now like to hand over to Joanna Narmia. Joanna has grown up in Athens. She's the daughter of an English mother and a Greek of Spanish origin Holocaust survivor father. She's been very involved with community youth and became active in community affairs when her children, her son Philip Gilbert and daughter Stephanie Renee, who are now, I think, in their mid-20s, attended the Lauda Jewish Community School. This school was established to ensure a Jewish future in Greece and to help children develop a strong, proud Jewish identity. She joined the school's committee back in 2005 and assisted in fundraising events, and currently serves her second term on the board of Jewish Community of Athens. She's also a great horse lover and was a founding member of a very successful riding club in Athens. She's married to Alberto. As you will see, she has a bubbly, outgoing personality, and this will allow you to see how successfully she's managed to achieve and accomplish all the things within her community. And so over to you, Joanna.
Hello and thank you. Hello, ICJW ladies. My name is Joanna, and I'm grateful for the opportunity I have been given to present my community, the community of Athens, Greece, and talk to you about the role and actions of women in this community today. Athens is a vast metropolis for those who haven't yet had the chance to visit. We are a small community with 3,500 members in a country of 5,000 Jews in total. evidence of a small Jewish presence in Athens has existed since the beginning of the 1st century before Christ era, and the ruins of the synagogue on the island of Delos is the oldest synagogue in Europe. Jewry in Greece is consisted of the Romaniots and the Sephards. Until the 15th century, the majority of Greek Jews became integrated, adopting both language and local customs. These Jews are known as Romaniots. Around the end of the 15th century, Spanish and Portuguese Jews, also known as Sephards, having been expelled from the Iberian Peninsula, settled into lands of the then Ottoman Empire, thereby assimilating large portions of the Romaniot communities. After 1834 and the proclamation of Athens as the capital of independent Greece, the Jewish community began to grow. Following the Balkan Wars and the liberation of many Greek territories, the number of Greek Jews rose to 100,000, with 65,000 of them living in Thessaloniki. During the Holocaust, 86% of Greek Jewry was annihilated, with the city of Thessaloniki suffering the largest loss. After the end of World War II, with the return of the survivors and the settlement of members from other communities like Thessaloniki and Ioannina, the community of Athens experienced a demographic growth. Presently, it is the largest Jewish community in Greece, and although its small size, it is a vibrant and dynamic community. Its main purposes are philanthropic, cultural, and educational. Volunteers help significantly in the management of the community, offering their valuable time and services, working on matters such as welfare, education, religious engagement, professional reintegration, youth, kosher, social events, and more, trying to cover the needs of our members while supported by a small team of employees. The community operates 2 synagogues, a mikveh, a community center, and a Jewish cemetery. Yet the most important element of our community is our school, recently adopted by the Lauder Foundation and consisting of a preschool and a primary education program. Its alumni amount to more than 1/3 of our community's population. Last but not least, the existence of a remarkable social welfare system for the elderly and sick and needy is something we are very proud of. During the financial crisis that hit Greece, prominent members and great supporters of this community lost their businesses and sometimes even their homes, as one company after the other went bankrupt. Parents were losing their jobs while unemployment and depression became the new reality. The community's income from its real estate dropped as most of its property was vacated. Many members needed to be supported. Their children needed scholarship funding. The impact for all our members and our community at large was devastating. We were forced to reach out for help in order to sustain ourselves. That is when large Jewish organizations abroad, as the Lauder Foundation, responded and came to our rescue. Members of various organizations started visiting us, and suddenly we became part of a wider entity, something I would like to stress, and how grateful we are to these organizations for their support and help and for treating this proud community with great dignity when we needed them the most. Sadly, just as we were beginning to recover, the COVID-19 pandemic began and we found ourselves facing a new, more challenging recession. This time we were more alert, maybe even better prepared as a community, as we reacted with efficiency to our members' needs. Through our youth volunteers, we sent medicine and groceries to our needy and elderly, delivered Pesach supplies for both Passover spent in lockdown, and provided them with more than 30 electronic tablets with the kind support of claims to help them overcome the feeling of isolation, giving them the possibility to participate in our now online run activities. Currently, our welfare actively supports more than 200 members, covering their utility bills, medical expenses, and in some cases, even food coupons. Unfortunately, the financial consequences of this pandemic are only just starting to become evident in Greece, with economic predictions published at EU level placing Greece as the worst hit of all member countries. Many members of our community are professionals in the fields of the arts, commerce, and in tourism, Greece's main industry, which has been severely affected by the pandemic. Our community itself has also seen decreased rental revenues, reduced 40% by law, decreased revenues from our school's tuition fees, and almost zero personal donations from members, which combined constituted the working capital supporting our welfare programs. In our community, we have 4 all-members organizations, each with their own agenda, but who frequently collaborate in communal events. We have Benot, a group targeted at helping disadvantaged families within our community, Vizo, with a clear purpose of supporting Israel and its needy, and recently we have W Young and ICJW Greece. Traditionally, Benot and Vizo were organizations consisting almost entirely of older women, highly committed and very loyal to their causes, who grew with their organizations. I believe that these women's organizations have each achieved a great deal as they have helped many people. There is still, however, room for improvement when it comes to attracting and engaging the women within the community, as there is a generation gap that still has not been entirely bridged. The creation of these 2 new organizations, W Young and ICJW, have come a long way in mitigating this, having many active participants ranging between the ages of 30 to 60, yet admittingly, the younger women of our community are still not sufficiently integrated in these initiatives. What I believe has attracted these women in these new organizations is the lack of hierarchy, permitting everyone to equally voice their opinion, creating interesting conversations. Another important factor is the allocation of different project managers, allowing everyone to take on responsibility and use their skills and interests more focused, making them feel that their individual contribution is more effective. Most of us believe and hope that maintaining these elements will attract more women to participate. Our hope for the future is to attract, include, and engage with more community members, help build friendships within these groups, and make these organizations known as they voice their goals and achievements while being a part of a greater Jewish international community. At this point, I would like to mention the case of the group called W Young. In an effort to attract and engage the next generation of women, meaning mostly mums of young school-aged children, the group W Young emerged. This group was created with a charitable focus in order to promote Jewish assistance to local non-Jewish socially vulnerable groups. It aims to pass the message that Jewish benevolence is not only confined to themselves, as it provides aid to organizations focused on children and other misfortunate cases. Some of the activities have included blood donation runs, fundraising events, and quiz nights. Being working mums, the participants have little time to offer, and so all communication is run online. Although this group interacts and depends completely on social media like Facebook and WhatsApp chats, it quickly became a very successful group with great acceptance and results. 2 years ago, a new group also emerged, named ICJW Greece. Unfortunately, COVID-19 hit before this group had time to really get going, but recently they have come up with a new project. During the year-long pandemic crisis, it became apparent that there are 10 young members in our community, boys and girls, who, having underperformed at school, probably due to learning disabilities, combined with their family's limited income, were obliged to begin working immediately after the 12-year basic education. Having entered young in the workforce and without ever having any further education other than minimum schooling, they know no foreign languages and have no skills. 10 sad cases of hardworking youngsters, all striving to make ends meet, but with no means to achieve this. They have been working jobs such as delivery drivers, waiting tables, bartending, and other lowly paid occupations. Regrettably, all these jobs ended during the now 1-year-long lockdown, leaving them unemployed and with no income. If we could find a way to raise funds to support each one of them for a period of 6 to 12 months while they are taught a trade, such as, for example, sewing, plumbing, hairdressing, gardening, or cooking, we would be in reality teaching them how to fish for food instead of just feeding them, as the Talmud teaches us. We would be giving them dignity in finding a way to support themselves instead of them striving to find the lowest pay possible jobs that give them no chance of being able to ever support a family. Evidently, if they are not helped now, their future will be bleak and they will probably slip further down the socioeconomic scale. If we are able to guide and help them, however, we would be assisting these young members of our society boost their self-esteem and take on a more positive outlook for their future. ICJW Greece has decided to take on this initiative and help these young members re-enter the workforce stronger, more qualified and self-assured for their tomorrow. We would be very grateful if the international community of ICJW women would help and support us in any way possible to realize this goal. Closing, I would like to thank you all for your attention and hope that Jewish women around the world continue making a difference, connect, discuss, and help each other while maintaining a strong voice within and outside each one's community. Thank you very much.
Wow, Joanna. I must say, to me, you really hit home because you've shown us that that's what community service is all about. And just as your community in Athens was hard hit itself, and your organization was hard hit, you didn't sit back and relax and turn around and say, sorry guys, funding's cut off, we're taking strain. Instead, you got your hands dirty, you got involved, and you went out within your community to help even those less fortunate, and you kept on giving. And I think that's what Jews around the world do. We get involved, no matter how tough our own circumstances are, we get out there, we get involved, we help others around us. Yes, within our community, but also those that are not in our community. We go out and we make a difference. And it's a bit of a trivial quote that J.K. Rowling said. She says, we do not need magic to transform our world. We all carry the power we need inside ourselves already. And from your inspirational talk, I can see that as a leader in a Jewish community, you carry that power and you pass that power on with your magical wand of enthusiasm and a really powerful attitude. And I thank you for your presentation and for your inspiration, and look forward to the questions that will come afterwards. And I really do hope that this forum does allow you to get support to help those individual members to fish. I think that was
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Lisa. Thank you.
We now have the honor of chatting to Aleksandra Yach. Aleksandra is a social activist, an expert on social engagement and human rights. She's passionate about strengthening political and civil organizations, promoting the engagement of minority groups, promoting tolerance, and creating an attitude of openness towards national, ethnic, and religious minorities, and focusing on preventing anti-Semitism and discrimination, including cross-discrimination. Since 2019, she's been a board member of the Jewish Association and an ombudsman of this organization, where she focused on projects promoting ideas of an inclusive society and has helped to develop educational tools for fighting anti-Semitism. She's young, full of zest and passion, confident, and I can see that she works hard, plays hard, and gets the task at hand done. Aleksandra, we can't wait to hear your story. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for your introduction. And thanks to Lillian and Beth and also Penelope for inviting me. It's an honor and a pleasure to have a place to take a part in such a meeting with interesting women from around the world and share our experiences and perspectives with the wider audience through this platform. So as they say, let's start at the beginning, which is always a good place to start. My name is Aleksandra, and I'm a board member of the Jewish Association Schewitz. It's a mouthful. And that association, according to Polish law, is a minority organization, which means that all of our members are Jewish. I am a social activist and also an expert with over 10 years of experience in social engagement and human rights, as Lisa said. And I worked with some, among others, organizations like National Democratic Institute, based in Washington, D.C., Council of Europe in Strasbourg, and OCE. I am a Polish Jewess, but I currently live in Manchester, UK. And I'm here to share with you something about an important part of my life, which is the Jewish Association Schewitz, and the various projects and activities that we engaged in, because we are doing things that are very valuable and needed, especially in the challenging times that we live in. Schewitz is a non-partisan, non-political advocacy civil society organization recognized by the legal system in Poland and registered in court. Our projects are focused on combating and preventing anti-Semitism and different forms of discrimination. And to go into a little bit more depth, Schewitz started in 2004 as a grassroots organization focused on community building. From there, the nature of association evolved and changed as the members themselves progressed. And if I had to put my finger on this crucial event, that would probably be in 2014, when we launched a big project I was co-creating. And the project was called Anti-Semitism is not an opinion, or in Polish, Antisemityzm nie jest poglądem. It was a project in which we gathered around 50 experts and analyzed textbooks which are officially recognized and approved by the Ministry of Education. And what we looked for was really taking a close look on the context of like a broadly understood Jewish culture, history, tradition, and anti-Semitism. And the whole project took us 2 years to complete, and it was, and still is, considered one of the big steps in combating anti-Semitism in Poland. Because through innovative actions, we help to increase the awareness and recognize and prevent, let me say that sentence again. Because this program was really important because through our innovative actions, we managed to help prevention and bring to light really recognition of the institutional anti-Semitism that was present in those school books. So that was also why it was important. And I wanted to also add that thanks to International Council of Jewish Women, which were one among other people, like private donors and also institutions, you helped us finance this big project. And thank you, we made it into a really good success. And what I wanted to say, why I would say this was a crucial moment for us, it was because from that on, we also worked with Ombudsman for Human Rights in Poland. And from that moment, we realized that we changed the direction of our actions more into advocacy. So we took inspiration from the Jewish women Polish leaders from interwar period, and because we realized the same thing that they were saying to us, that our voices, even how strong they are, they're never going to be strong enough because Jewish minority in Poland is small, and some people, like the last census in Poland says it's 7,500, while the World Jewish Congress puts it somewhere at less than 10,000. So the number, although this can be discussed, it's still really small minority compared to the 37 billion people that lives in Poland. 37 million, of course, not billion people that live in Poland. So to take a place at the table in order not to be on the menu, as the famous quote says, we realized that we need to join forces and lead with other minorities and with other groups to make sure that we have the place on the table that we rightfully deserve. So from that point on, we progressed and we started to work together, building coalitions and empowering women, giving them rightful place and also giving them skills that they need. So one of the projects that we currently work on, because I could talk about the different projects that we've done for quite a long time, but the things that we mainly focus on now is campaigning to have IRA working definition of anti-Semitism. So in this project, we analyze Polish law and make sure to lobby for adoption of this IRI definition in Polish law. At the same time, we want the local governments to implement it, because maybe it's worth mentioning that Polish administration system is a little bit similar to those of the United States. So local authorities, because you got 18 voivodeships, which is voivods in Polish. So they have their own administration and they have quite a lot of freedom in implementing the law. So this is the place where we can make a real change for Poland and for our communities there. And we have a group of experts, and I also wanted to say that it's probably worth mentioning that we work with national and international organizations such as Council of Europe, OSCE, National Democratic Institute, and United Nations. And we're implementing different programs supported by the US Department of State and European Commission. And we, of course, are part of International Council of Jewish Women network. So and under those big wings, we also do work on creating a comprehensive system for fighting hate crime and monitoring hate speech. So that would be a tool which will be tailored to our specific needs in Poland, and it would allow us to create a space or a platform that would allow us to report and collect and also analyze the data of hate crime incidents and hate speech and all of those kind of things, focusing on anti-Semitic hate crime. But also it would provide a victim support, but that would be tailored to the local needs as well. So that's one of the another things that we are working on. And then having in mind that we're talking about the Polish context, so you probably should know that Jewish communities didn't have any representation in Polish government, especially after war. And at this moment, the only minority that has a representation in Poland is a German minority, which has only one senator. So we want to change that, and we're working for establishing connections between local politicians and decision makers, and also Jewish experts, as well as representatives of other minorities or marginalized minority groups. It is crucial for us to teach them and give them tools for successful cooperation, especially when it comes to fighting anti-Semitism and other forms of discriminations, for that will allow us to build more inclusive society in Poland. And also scaling up from the individual connections, we also provide a space and means for coalition building so that we can create a crossover alliances and networks to fight anti-Semitism in Poland, using the power of joint activism of the minority groups and liberals as well. So to sum it up in a few words, continuing the works of our predecessors, Jewish women leaders from the interwar period who invested their lives and energy to make the Jewish voice being treated as equal partner in the conversations on administrative and governmental level. I'm proud to be a board member of Jewish Association Schulen, which is the only non-partisan, non-governmental organization whose important work in the field of advocacy on and combating anti-Semitism in Poland, as well as other forms of discrimination, contributes to building a better future. In other words, using the famous quote, it contributes for us to making sure that we are at the table and not on the menu. And thank you again for providing me with the opportunity to share a bit about our mission and for the place to be a part of the platform that International Council of Jewish Women provides for us. I think using this platform is very important for Jewish women in Central and Eastern Europe as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's fascinating to see that I didn't realize that the amount of anti-Semitism in Poland that's so active, and that it's a real thing in the world. And on behalf of everybody watching, just thank you and kol hakavod for actually being so passionate about making it right, for seeking representation on a political level, and for really having an active voice. And it was Golda Meir that said, make the most of yourself by fanning the tiny inner sparks of possibility into flames of achievement. And I think if you and your team can continue with the work that you're doing, it will be an amazing achievement, and one that we all from the rest of the world will be very proud of. So thank you for sharing your story with us, and for making such a big difference. And that really concludes our formal presentations from our panelists. We'd love to hear from our audience, so please, if you've got any questions, please put them into the chat section of the webinar, and I'm going to fire away. Karoline, I think you are our first speaker, and the first question is for you. And that is, Karoline, how much overt anti-Semitism is there in Sweden? I think we all know about Poland, but I don't know about Sweden. And also, is there any anti-Israel or anti-Zionist feelings in Sweden?
Yes, that's a complex question, I would say, a difficult one for me to really, try to answer in a simple way. I guess that there are anti-Semitism in Sweden as in any other country in the world. I think it's, for instance, in Malmö, the anti-Semitism that we experienced here is related to other, political and societal factors and aspects of, for instance, segregation and so on. So I can't really grade it, but of course it exists also in Sweden to different extent, and also it depends on it's a community feeling, but it's also depending on you as a person and how you experience the setting you're in, or the region you're in, I believe.
And in terms of anti-Zionism and anti-Israel, I mean, in South Africa, there's a difference between being anti-Jewish and anti-Israel. A lot of people are anti-Israel because they see us being South African as an apartheid country and Israel being apartheid with Palestine, but they're very pro the Jewish community. And I'm not going to go into a political debate, but would you say people are anti-Israel, anti-Zionistic, or is there a difference between the two?
This one is also really hard for me to answer. Of course, we had, like, from a political point of view before, kind of, parties, but I think it's for me it's a difficult question. I think that there might be it might be also related not only politically but also to different groups, and also that to the topic I mentioned before around segregation and stuff. And so I think that I think there are it exists, anti-Israelism and also maybe anti-Zionists, but I can't really elaborate more on it than that.
No problem. And another question while I've got you on the screen is, how many women are working with you in your organization?
We are 9 altogether.
Fantastic. And I see it's also a very as Joanna was saying, non-hierarchical with the W group that they formed. It's non-hierarchical, not structured, laissez-faire. You get together, you're all friends, and you take your projects on from there. Yeah. Joanna, while we're on anti-Semitism, perhaps we can go across to you and just see in Greece or in Athens how you experience anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, and hear a little bit more.
Well, Greece was a very anti-Semitic country, and growing up in this country, we all felt it very strongly. Now, for example, many TV personas or members of the clergy use degrading, derogative words in their speeches towards Jews. During Easter festivities, still in many villages, they have they still make a doll out of hay and they light it, representing the burning of Judas. This still is permitted, and it happens here in the villages. But on the other hand, with the past 2-3 years, when the government changed and Greece formed a very close coalition with Israel, exchanging military secrets, and Israel is now helping in a lot of things, Greece. The sentiment has changed. Of course, it has changed on the higher echelon, but eventually it will move down, and people don't have this strong feeling anymore. But in our generation, it has been taught over the years. The younger generations, I think it will be abolished. The sentiment won't be so strong anymore.
And is there any gender discrimination in Greece? How equal are women in the workplace to men?
I think there's improvement on that. It's becoming better and better. I wouldn't say it is a problem. Of course, yes, they do get a lower salary on the same level of professions, but it is being corrected because we are part of the European Commonwealth. So we do get rules and regulations that are enforced in other countries also here. Eventually, this is also changing. It is much better than it used to be.
Perfect. Aleksandra, how are activists viewed in Poland? I mean, can you go out and be an active activist, or is there an acceptance? Are you viewed as suspicion? Are you anxious? Are you nervous? You know, how tolerated are you is what I'm asking.
Well, that is a quite complex question. I guess it depends on what sort of activism you're engaging in, because in the current political climate in Poland, it might be very different from activity to activity. Like, I would say that probably partisan actions are obviously met with different reactions. Although from our experience as an advocacy organization, if you have the right tools and you know with whom to speak, there's not so much of a problem. Although the problem of hate speech and, for example, anti-Semitism and in online is more prevalent than in a face-to-face everyday now society, I would say, when it comes to activism, because right now, especially with the pandemics, there is the whole. It's really hard to tackle the problem because it would have to be taken into really into deep context to understand all the incidents that are happening and why they're happening, and while is it a peaceful protest or non-peaceful protest and all of that. So I'd rather not go into depths in there. But what I can say is because, like, for example, if we look at the Jewish society and the last. Well, you can say that the Polish society basically warmed up to the Jewish community. There's a little bit more sympathy towards them in the latest scientific researches. Although at the same time, the hate speech and anti-Semitism in the web, like online, has risen significantly. So it is a really interesting phenomenon to look at. And I think the same thing also kind of transfers when it comes to activism, that people hiding behind the screen feel more free to attack and to be more open. So some people would say things online while they would not have the courage to say the same thing on the street, for example. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you, thank you. As we come to near the end of our questions and answers, I just want to pose one or two last questions to the panelists. And this is a question for all of you. I'll start in order of the order that you spoke. But so Karoline, is there intermarriage in any of your communities? And is there a lot of assimilation or you know, how are your communities dealing with that?
Yes, I would say that there are intermarriage and assimilation in that way. Also that, you know, I mentioned, for instance, Chinuch before, the Jewish kindergarten, that decreased in level of children and so on, that, you know, it's when, for instance, when you're mixed as a couple, then it's not necessarily so you decide upon, you know, engaging in different ways. So there is an assimilation in that way, I would say.
Thank you. And Joanna, from your point of view?
Well, I have to say that indifference, integration and assimilation is what we fight as a community and the dangers that we face as a community. Some years ago, we took the big decision as a community and we opened the school to mixed marriages. So the children in our school are not 100% Jewish, but the one parent, the other religion parent, has to sign a declaration that they accept that the child will learn everything about the Jewish faith. We believe that we're very open to the mixed marriages. We consider them the best ambassadors of our religion. We're very open to them, very friendly towards them. We want them close to us. We're very lucky to have them. And this is how our community battles, at least integration and assimilation. But we're open to it, we accept it.
Yes. And Aleksandra, over to you.
Yeah. So in our association, we are basically working on the right of return law, which means if our community member has at least one, like if one of the grandparents, which obviously is the grandmother, or like grandmother or grandfather, so one of the grandparents is Jewish, then they're allowed to join. And when it comes to international mixed marriages, we don't have that problem because we are we're quite assimilated in that concern. So we, like, whether the participants of Chulent themselves want to be religious or non-religious, we're fine with both. So we're not really looking into that. But most of our members are rather assimilated. But I think this is also how entire community, Jewish community in Poland works. And I also think that it's interesting to mention in this moment is that JDC Joint is making research now in Polish society to see if that, like the intermarriage in the Jewish community and assimilation, is that a problem for the community or is it not a problem? Like, how does it affect the community as such? So yeah, we can wait and see for the report, and then we can continue that discussion to see if that's a good or not so good point.
Yes, I mean, it is a big, and it's an interesting and maybe a discussion, a separate discussion or debate for another time. But having just celebrated Yom HaZikaron, Rabbi Lau, I think the chief rabbi of Israel, he stated something along the lines that Auschwitz is the biggest cemetery in the world, and Jews have to, instead of concentrating on dying together, we have to establish how we live together. And there is a lot there is a lot of division amongst us, whether you're Orthodox or Reform or Conservative. But when you take the bullet, you're just seen as being Jewish. And there does have to be more unity amongst different Jewish levels of observance and the good work that we do within our communities, because no one says, oh, that's you know, that kind of organization or that organization. It's Jews doing good work. And maybe that's what we can take from this conference. I hope I'm not being too political. If you don't see me at the next one, then you know that I am. And so I'd like to conclude now and hand over to Bev just to wrap things up and to say thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I've actually just sent a note to all the panelists to say what a fabulous moderator you are. You really are. And you've just made everybody feel very comfortable and added so much to the value of what they said. I think for me, well, I thoroughly enjoyed everything, but I think for me, what really stood out was how disparate and yet how alike all these different communities are, and all the women. We might be different ages, we might have different languages, whatever. There's a lot that separates us, but there's a tremendous amount more that unites us. And I think obviously, you know, it's our Judaism that does, but it's also our femininity, which is vitally important. And it's the goodness that comes out of, I think, Jewish women and the Jewish religion, the need to help, the need to be there for other people, to solve as many problems as we can. And I'm continually amazed at the wonderful work that's done by the affiliates of the ICJW across the world and by the executive members. And I would just like to add my heartfelt plea to many of you who are listening. Try and join an affiliate in your country. If you can join an affiliate and thereby become a member of the ICJW, the benefits that will accrue to you are just remarkable. There is so much you can learn. There's so much that you can do. There are these wonderful webinars that go on. And in Lillian, we have at the ICJW, the most wonderful director, or are you director, Lillian, of communications and public relations, and anything you need to know is there. So I know from my perspective that being a member of the ICJW has infinitely improved a lot of aspects of my life. So I just want to thank you all, girls. I think you are amazing. I'm so impressed with you. I have a bucket list that continually changes. At the moment, the top of my bucket list is to visit your 3 communities and to see for myself exactly what's going on and to meet the wonderful women that you are who are doing such superb work. So thank you, and thank you again to Penelope and to Lillian and so much to Lisa, and we look forward to having another one of these at some stage in the future.
Thank you, Bev. Penny, I'd now like to hand back to you and then to Lillian.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been a wonderful morning. Thank you, everybody. And I'm delighted that you all emphasise the opportunities to network presented by your membership of ICJW. As president, that's wonderful for me to hear, and I hope that it continues. Thank you, Lisa, for your moderation. Thank you again, Lillian, for all your hard work. I know you've burnt the midnight oil some nights. And although you can't see him, thank you, David. I actually managed to read my speech off my screen, thanks to David's tutelage. And thank you, Bev, for your closing remarks. I hope you've all enjoyed it. I hope you will go out and encourage all your friends who have joined you but are not members of ICJW to join your group. And Aleksandra, I do hope while you're still in Manchester that in the UK we may be able to make use of you in some way. I hope you're going to be here for some time. So thank you everybody for coming, and have a good day. Lillian, you wanted to close, I think.
Thank you, Penny. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you to our audience. It's really exciting to see the work, our newest leader of ICJW, congratulations to them. Their example should only encourage us to continue in doing this job. As we all know, the ICJW has 36 different affiliates in the countries around the world. So as Bev, I invite you to join the organization. If you like what you have seen today, come to our website, which is icjw.org, and make a donation and show your support. You can also follow us on social media, and out of our website is available for you to view this event on YouTube channel. Come, visit, subscribe. Hope to see you on our next webinar. Be well and safe. And I say farewell from here. So I wish you all well. And if you guys want to say farewell from all over, you are. It was very nice seeing you. Want to thank Bev. And I want to take also FT that helped us to put this together with Joanna. FT was really great. Mary Lilling, and there's so many that helps. We do a collaborative work. It's not my work, it's our work. So I'm really pleased to see you all together, and we're learning about our affiliates. Thank you, Penny, for saying okay to our initiatives and being supportive. So farewell from Rio, and please say where you're from and say farewell. I'd like to hear you say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye from Greece.
Bye.
Goodbye from London.
Bye from Johannesburg.
Bye-bye.
So that
Bye, and thank
concludes
you.
our webinar. And just to leave you with one last thought, that if in order to see the rainbow, you've got to put up with the rain. So may you all continue to get wet and to dance in the rain, to put up your umbrellas, and just to spread the good work that you do. Thank you, and Lehitra Ot from East London.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, David.